Alright, so we last left off with the Battle for Karakura Town beginning and seeing some lesser shown characters get some fights and chances to shine, and that just keeps ramping up here. Kubo continues to use the circumstances of this battle to give characters we haven't seen much of a chance to show what they're capable of. So let's get back into the thick of it. We get more of the Fractiones Arancars facing off against the Soul Reapers, and once again, these fights themselves may not be what I've been itching for, but they do a good job of highlighting characters that we don't usually spend much time with. A lot of the characters in this battle are people that I hadn't seen enough of to really form a concrete opinion on before. With Soy Fawn, it's a little different though, because if you recall my captain ranking at the end of the Soul Society arc, she's a character that I'm not indifferent toward. No, she's a character that I actively disliked before. I found her to be unlikable in the Soul Society arc, even after we learned about her past with Yoriichi. I just didn't really vibe with the bitter, rule-following, stick-in-the-mud, no matter the reasons. It was just hard to root for her at all, but now I'm getting a new chance to, which is helped by her not fighting someone like Yoriichi. No, she gets a chance to be the hero all on her own, away from the shadow of her former superior. And I gotta say, I enjoyed what we got to see from her this time. Is she like a favorite of mine now? No, I wouldn't go that far, but I definitely had a much more positive experience with her than back in the Soul Society arc. Her opponent, personality-wise, wasn't anything special, but I really enjoyed how sleek his design was. It was this like saber-toothed tiger aesthetic that complemented his quick, cat-like style of fighting, which in turn was a good match for Soy Fawn's own style. Unfortunately, his last transformation was so goofy looking in comparison, and kind of hideous. I don't know what happened, man. You were doing so well. What went wrong? I feel like Soy Fawn killed him immediately because she didn't want to have to look at it for very long, and I'm with her on that. But for real, I liked the way the fight ended with her targeting his insides rather than any exterior wounds. It was fittingly sneaky for someone like her. Her lieutenant, Omaida, is one of those characters that seems to be around for comic relief, and he's pretty good in that role. The fight that he has here and his Arankar opponent aren't very serious either. The Arankar's whole shtick is pretty much turning into a big mammoth guy. Wait, he's a mammoth. His buddy's a saber-toothed tiger. Could that mean? No, it couldn't be, but maybe. Jokes aside, it's not the best fight, but it's a testament to Omaida being entertaining because he carried the whole thing with his antics. Getting to see more of his personality's been great. He's arrogant, but in kind of an endearing way, apparently coming from a rich family. I don't remember if that was ever brought up previously. It's been a while since Omaida's gotten any real page time, but yeah, he comes from wealth. He seems to have a very high opinion of himself, if maybe even a little bit of a diluted opinion of himself. But man, I loved the end of this fight when a large, obnoxious bull of a guy like Omaida reminds the Arankar and me that Omaida's a member of the stealth division and much quicker than he seems, making this a fun little scrap about not judging people based on their looks. It was fun and made me like Omaida a little more than before, because back then, just like his captain, I didn't really care for him. And I actually really loved the juxtaposition of him being this like wrecking ball of a human who is part of the squad known for their sneakiness. It's just a fun paradox, kind of, that I really like that Kubo put into the story. Omaida's fun. I'm really warming up to him, and I'm warming up to Soy Fawn, but we'll see what they do from here. But this is what I mean. These chapters are making me like these lesser-known characters more, or in this case, characters I didn't really like much in the Soul Society arc. I'm growing to really enjoy. It was nice seeing Omaida go up to bat for his captain, even if she didn't want his help. Soy Fawn was just testing the Arankar for when she has to face the actual strong ones like the Espada. But her and Omaida's relationship is actually kind of hilarious, and now that I'm starting to like each of them, I'm really starting to appreciate it. I liked the philosophy she shared about how the stealth squad operates, where they shouldn't protect one another, but instead prioritize killing the enemy when they're distracted, hurting the teammate. Like, I thought that was really interesting that that's her perspective, that if you're working in unison with a member of that squad, your focus is on the target. It's not about helping your teammate. Them providing a distraction by getting killed is not your opportunity to rescue them, it's your opportunity to kill the person that's killing them. Like, I thought that was an interesting take, and it makes sense for ninja assassins. And on to another fight we kind of started to see the beginning of. I was right that Stark and Shunsui are similar vibes, and their first instincts aren't to fight one another. It makes sense. They're both just two cool, level-headed people who want to do just about anything else, but unfortunately, they're in the middle of a war. When push comes to shove, we've seen that Shunsui can throw down, and I'm sure Stark is the same way. They're just two very similar people on the same wavelengths, and I don't know if it's because they're so similar or because of how observant Stark is, but he notices things about Shunsui that Shunsui is shocked that he can see, like the little details about Shunsui's swords, and so I like that they're on the same wavelength. I think it's going to make for an interesting fight once they really get into it. And Ukitake and Stark's Fractione arguing about him not being able to fight her because she's a kid was pretty funny, but frankly, kid or not, I want to see what Ukitake can really do. Kubo's been letting me see all kinds of capabilities from characters, but I want to see Ukitake get serious and hopefully not have his illness interrupt his fight, but we'll see. Obviously, I think this kid is more dangerous than she looks, considering she's like not scared at all that Ukitake is a captain, so I don't know, we'll see. It might be a 2v2 with her and Stark versus Ukitake and Shunsui, but I just want to see Ukitake go all out. Like, I want to know what he's capable of. And then we have Harabelle's Fractiones, who are notably all ladies, and I remember seeing them specifically when they were watching Ichigo and Grimmjow fight. And I actually really like their designs. They're all super distinctive, despite kind of being like a group effort in their battle. They're very team-oriented, so they take on Rangiku, and it was awesome to see her in more action. She handled herself really well against multiple enemies, and I love her sword's abilities with the clouds of ash that can just tear people to shreds. We've seen her fight, we know she's strong. Rangiku's just one of my favorite lieutenants, so I like seeing her really putting up a good fight against tough opponents, in this case multiple of them at once. Like, she handled herself well. And then Momo shows up. Poor, sweet Momo. I was stunned when she wasn't killed by Aizen during that huge moment back in the Soul Society arc. The shock of that scene is still so vivid for me, and I'm sure it was for a lot of people at this point too, and we've only seen her briefly since then, most notably when we saw just how broken she was by the whole thing. So to see her show up here is quite a moment, and for me, a mix of emotions. A part of me is very glad to see her because it's a powerful, heroic moment for a character that spent a large portion of the story being manipulated and acting on incorrect information and then just kind of being mentally and emotionally destroyed. So it's great to see her on the right side of this, knowing what she does now. But at the same time, a part of me is really worried about her being here because she's obviously been through an incredibly traumatic experience. Having the man she admired betray her was obviously devastating, and we've seen how she's still recovering from that. Last we saw, she was still very fragile, to say the least. As much as she says that she's accepted the truth and she knows that Aizen's an enemy and all of that, I don't know if she's ready to be in the same space as her former captain, let alone actually confront him. As much as I want to see her overcome Aizen and fight the man that he turned out to be, I just don't know that she can, and that scares me. I don't want her to have to relive trauma or suffer even more at his hands. The poor woman has been through enough. You hear me, Kubo? She's been through enough. Leave her alone, or give her some great victory over Aizen. But the moment of Aizen's reaction when she showed up was also interesting, pretty much claiming that makes no difference to him when she shows up, but I'm inclined to believe him, but maybe there was a small part of him that actually cared about Momo. I don't know. It's hard to comprehend that, especially after he tried to almost kill her, but I don't know, if you spend that long with people, could be Aizen's just that evil and that manipulative, but I feel like at some point he must have developed some sincere moment and some sincere bond with someone, right? He could just be an absolute sociopath and not be able to, but I don't know, I feel like it's possible. It's possible, but I doubt it. And it's not only Momo that's dealing with a possible reunion with a man that let her down and broke her heart. Rangiku is potentially going to have to face the same thing. After all, while we may not know the specifics of their relationship, she may have to confront Gin, and from everything that's been implied, the two of them used to be very close. So I liked the small moment of Captain Hitsugaya checking in with her. You could really feel the conflict and the the worry raging inside of her in that moment. Maybe she'll do better than Momo, but it's clearly not going to be easy to see Gin again, especially as an enemy. He may not have physically stabbed her like Aizen did to Momo, but we still saw how much his betrayal hurt Rangiku. Like, we really need a support group for all of these people that got betrayed. But the battle gets more complicated when Haribel's Fracciones each rip off an arm, and those severed pieces all merge into whatever the hell this abomination is. It's a little disarming, but it's some weird chimera thing called Aeon. I'm gonna say Ion. It could easily be Aeon. You guys know me, correct me in the comments. Anyway, this creature is pretty intimidating, and I love the design. It feels threatening in an almost like satanic kind of way, you know, like some of that kind of imagery. It's also really, really strong, considering that it was made from just portions of these Arancars. That's actually really wild, and Kubo really made sure that we understood this kind of silent, scary strength that this thing has. Without a word, or any provocation really, this thing rips out like half of Rangiku's stomach and holds it between its fingers. It really paints a clear picture of why this thing is terrifying. It's not boasting about its own power. It's not cackling and insulting our heroes. It's just there for one purpose. And you guys know how much I love old school Hollows, and this feels like some of those vibes again, but it leans even more into like a Jason Voorhees kind of character where it's just this silent killer that you can't reason with, this big behemoth that there's no stopping, it seems. It doesn't seem to really have its own personality, and it is instead more of a force of nature, the violent will of these Arancars made flesh. It's not like a fusion of their characters, it doesn't have any of their personalities, which kind of makes sense. They sacrificed their arms and hands in particular to create it, and so this abomination has become their hand, an instrument of their desire to win. But in a classic monster kind of trope, it even kind of scares its creators, despite literally being made out of parts of them. That says a lot right there. And I'm so curious about this thing. How did they learn to do this? And what are its limits? What is the real power behind this? Whatever the case, it's very, very intimidating, and it has the power to back it up. This thing can take on lieutenants without issue, and who knows how it would have done against other captains. Everyone is struggling against it until head captain Yamamoto steps in, and it is glorious. The head captain started this battle off strong earlier when he immediately trapped Aizen, but now he gets even more involved. He remains calm and dominant, while making the monster look weak by comparison. From a purely visual standpoint, it's like watching Gandalf versus the Balrog if Gandalf utterly decimated the monster with little effort. It's great stuff seeing him drive Ion to kind of warp and mutate in its anger, only for Yamamoto to burn him away, single-handedly defeating the creature, and then roast the three that created it too. Yamamoto is more impressive than I honestly ever thought he would be. He trapped Aizen, Gin, and Tozen with a single swing of his sword, and when he's actually on the battlefield, he's absolutely trashing everyone. I knew that he'd be strong, obviously. He's the head captain, and we've seen him, almost get into a big fight before, but this guy is wild. So I'm curious to see what's going to be enough to take him out of the fight. Because, sadly, this isn't going to end with Yamamoto saving the day. He can't defeat all of the bad guys before Ichigo gets there. Maybe I'll get my long-awaited old man fight, or maybe Aizen himself will have to beat Yamamoto, but someone's gonna bring him down at some point, because frankly, the real hero of the story is running late for this battle, and I don't think he's gonna be trapped in Hueco Mundo the whole time. We'll see, but I'm kind of baffled by this battle because we've had all of these good fights and character moments without most of our main cast, and before we've even gotten to more Espada fights. It's just really amazing how Kubo managed to make me invested. It's one hell of a battle that's continuing for who knows how long, but so far, against the Fracciones, a little bit of starts of fights with Espada, it's been great, and I can't wait to see as we get closer and closer to fighting the real big bads of this arc. Thank you so much for listening. As always, hope you guys have a great day. Take care. Bye.